It's wine time! Welcome to this episode of Wine. As always, we are so thrilled to have you with us for another fun conversation. Today, we're talking about all of the ways businesses can save money without, hear me, y'all, without cutting all of the programs that drive retention, which apparently, as I keep saying, is our theme for the show, right, Jules?
Most definitely. Yes. Retention, retention, retention.
Yes. So, as you guys are all well aware, we're in a pretty uncertain market, maybe slowing labor market. And typically, the knee jerk reactions of companies, the higher ups, is to cut employees and cut those employee benefits. But what they don't often realize is that that can lead to greater turnover, lower efficiency, loss of profits, which is exactly the opposite of what we were trying to do. All right, I know it's a lot. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm super excited about it, as you can probably tell. And we definitely are going to need some wine for this one. Julie, what are you drinking?
Well, I today am drinking the last bottle, which makes me very sad, of that package of wine that I got at that Whino type store. Yes, so this is the last one they recommended, and it is called Circa. It's from Saint Joseph, and it's from France.
France.
It's a very like French label, like the cursive and
Nice.
everything. It's very nice. It's from the Rhone region.
Ooh,
Oh,
nice rolling of the
I know.
tongue. I'm
Thanks.
impressed.
Thanks. It is very yellow, if you can see that. And it is, I got one of my favorite elements. It's very minerally, very minerally.
Elements,
It
minerally.
Bum. But it's got a lot of honey,
Ooh.
some like apple and pear, maybe a little bit of citrus, the mineral on the back end. It's actually very lovely. It's just kind of it is, I looked it up. It is the top 9% of wines worldwide, considered one of the
Wow.
top wines, top 9%. And then in France, it's only in the top 19%. So I'm like, damn, I gotta go to France and do some wine tasting. If
I
this
think we
is
should do some episodes from
right.
there.
Yeah, I think
I
so
mean,
too. Why not? Why not?
oh, this is going to be one of those episodes.
It is.
You can tell we've had a long week.
Yeah, exactly. So far I really love it. I did open it the other day because I wanted a glass of wine with dinner. So I have had it already, but it is a very lovely wine that is not too much of anything, but a very nice blend of all the right things.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. You hear that, St. Joseph? Sponsors? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shameless
Trisha, what are
plug.
I
Shameless.
know, shameless. It's hey, when it comes to wine. Trisha, what are you drinking?
You're gonna laugh. So I told you earlier, I woke up freezing today, and it's like Mother Nature got the memo, like, oh, it's September, turn the heat off in Michigan. I've been freezing, and I told you I've really been into Pinot Noirs again lately. Um, Sadly, I'm not trying a new one because I am still obsessed with that bread and butter I was drinking before. It's the same one, same year. I found another place that had it, and so I bought them out and only have a couple bottles left.
Hey, when you find what you like.
Right? Exactly. And it's not just me who drinks it, of course. Like we share it with friends and Will drinks it, and so yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's what I'm having, and it's wonderful as always. And it's that perfect kind of transition wine,
Mhm.
because it's not freezing out. It isn't, but it just at night it gets super cold. So I woke up cold and thought, perfect for today. So
I
That's
do
me.
have to, yes, I do have to say, this is probably going to be my last bottle of white for a while because it is starting to feel like that transition time. And
Um,
I do have a wine fridge full of red that needs to be, you know,
it's just waiting for you
enjoyed.
to. Love it. Love it.
Yes. So now that we have the WINE out of the way, of course, we're going to jump into our WHINE of the episode. Most of the suggestions that we are giving you today come from three different articles, which, of course, we will put the links in the show notes. So one is from Indeed, one is from Yarooms. That's just fun to say. And the last one is from Brex. So we're going to share some of our favorites from each of those articles. And as always, adding our thoughts and suggestions. And as Trisha said, this topic is very timely because a lot of companies are just, it's hard to anticipate what's going to happen with the economy. And so, as Trisha mentioned, that means that a lot of companies sort of pull back on a lot of things. But sometimes they pull back on the wrong things. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today because you need to be strategic if you're going to do that, and while you may not have control over that as an HR professional or a manager, if you can at least point out some of these things to leadership, then you might be able to help them build their strategy by sharing some of the suggestions that we're going to talk about today.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said strategic, because that is what we're talking about. I think a lot of times when the companies go at this just all willy-nilly, panicked because of the numbers they see or the predictions or whatever it is, they just start cutting things and they cut huge chunks versus being really thoughtful about it and saying, well, if we take a little bit here, if we do a little bit here, and then overall, what do they say? I mean, and I love elephants, so I hate to use this expression, but the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And so it's the same thing here. It's these little bitty cost saving things that we're going to share with you really, really add up to some pretty huge savings. So, what are the benefits? Let's talk about the benefits of the strategic cost cutting. The first one is going to be enhanced financial resilience. Think about this. Instead of just, oh, I don't know, reacting to what's happening now, if you really make this part of your corporate philosophy, then you can actually be protected in all economic downturns. So by paying attention to this, you can, I don't know, weather the market volatility. You can not have to worry about cutting your staff and losing all of that knowledge that you've gained through having them. Increased operational efficiency is another one because what we're going to be talking about to you here in a little bit is eliminating excess. Another one is competitive positioning. We are talking about improved competitive positioning. Why? Because any money that you save can then be reinvested in the company and into growth more specifically. And then, because Julie and I are who we are, we also really have to talk about this one, and that is sustainability. When there are several cost-cutting things that we're going to share with you today that actually will reduce your impact on the environment through reduced usage or resource consumption. So, I think those are some pretty fantastic benefits, and I'm super excited to get to everything with you.
Yeah, this is great. And I think that again, the importance of the topic is that we want companies to be able to stop, take a breath before they make any drastic decisions, and really think about are there ways that we can adapt with the resources that we already have or build on the resources that we already have without having to do a lot of that just like chopping where they're getting rid of people and programs and things and all of that. So I think that those benefits, that again is something that as an HR professional or a manager or a member of leadership, you could take to the decision makers to say, like, hey, before we do something drastic, why don't we look to see if we can take advantage of this situation and obtain these benefits that Trisha was just talking about. So how do you do that? Well, we're going to talk about all those ways.
Yay.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the first one, which seems pretty basic, but it's reducing spending. Part of this is just identifying which tools and resources are really critical for your business and which ones may not be. Also thinking about like which ones are you actually using? Which ones are you just paying for because you don't even know if somebody's using them? You know,
We've always
um,
been using them. Don't we need them?
right. Right,
Right.
exactly, exactly. I find I do that. Like there are a lot of times where I'm like, why do I have so many subscriptions to so many different apps and platforms? And do I even use them all anymore? Like, I don't know. So that makes me
Exactly.
think of one like, look for ways you might be able to consolidate spending because you'll probably save. So, for example, like with cell phone programs, sometimes you can bundle them with the internet and get discounts. Or I was just sharing with Trisha and Brenna that Zoom now has enhanced a lot of their offerings and they can offer a whole bunch of things where um, you, I can actually get rid of some of the other apps that we use for Monarch and have them all available within Zoom and save money. So you can find ways to do that. Um, you can also, sort of look for where is our equipment? I think that the equipment is a really interesting one for me because I've seen a lot of companies do this where they will be like, we can't afford to buy a new piece of equipment. So we just keep putting band-aids on the old piece. But that at some point becomes more expensive than actually just purchasing the new equipment, which probably is more efficient now. Right? Because if you've
Right.
had the, if
Exactly.
you yeah, if you've had this piece of machinery for 25 years, then it's probably, they've probably made some improvements over that course of
Maybe.
time. So it's worth looking into and really looking long term. Like, yes, you might have more money going out the door right now, but you're going to get that money back faster than just continuing to put a band-aid on the problem. And I think the same goes for software purchases or upgrades. Sometimes, again, like we just keep making the old system work because the change to the new system seems so overwhelming. But again, there may be efficiencies in that new software upgrade or new software program that can really help you save money in other ways. So those are just a couple things to look at. Trisha, what about you? Do you have other ideas about reducing spending?
Yeah, I think that going on what you were saying about the software, I think that one, when we're talking about if you do replace software, if you're going to spend money on software, make sure that it's actually reducing the amount of work that you're going to be doing so that we can, oh, if we buy this, we can replace X, Y, and Z process. So we don't want to just go out and spend the money. We want to actually make it worth the money that we're spending and reduce time and then ultimately save money. The other thing is if you are going to purchase software or purchase equipment, really pay attention. How long will it take for you to reap those benefits, right? I think that that's something that people forget to calculate. People will say, "Oh, this is going to cost so much money," and then but they don't pay attention to the fact that, oh, well, within 3 months, 6 months, a year, it could pay for itself, and then from that point forward, you're reaping all of that extra. So that I think is what I would add there. Just pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Step one is probably knowing where the money's going in the first place. So, you know.
Which we joke about, but how many people really do? Or companies, when I say people, I'm sorry, I mean companies, but like how many companies really are paying attention and could tell you where that money is going?
Right. I would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Speaking of going, Julie, I want to talk about one, and this one is a lot shorter than our reducing spending. It's reducing travel. And don't everybody like throw stuff at me when I say that. But it really is important to think about. Do you absolutely have to travel for this? I mean, this is what we mentioned Zoom. This is why we have Zoom. This is why we have Teams. This is why we have the telephone, for goodness sake. We don't always, as much as sometimes it is better to be face to face. I get that. I love being face to face, but do you absolutely have to travel? And if you do have to travel, do you have to travel first class? Or could you travel business class or even, God forbid, coach, right? I mean, come on. Come on. You can do it. I know you can. So just think about it that way. Do you have to stay at the $500 a night hotel, or can you stay at something more along the midline, a $200 a night hotel? So really think about what if you can't suspend or don't want to suspend business travel, then how can you limit it? How can you make it get the same benefits without spending all of the money? I mean, truly and honestly, if you're not doing the first class tickets, the super expensive hotels, and they're just as comfortable, all you're doing is sleeping in a bed, you could save on a trip, what, $1,000, $2,000? That adds up.
Yes, I would agree wholeheartedly with that. And I also think, one of the things we don't tend to think about a lot is the value of our time. And that is part, it goes hand in hand with that reducing travel. Yes, I prefer to be in person for most things, but most of the time when I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, then that meeting is going to take me, depending on how far away it is, 2 to 3 hours because I have to get there, be there for whatever time length, and then get home. Or I could have that same meeting on Zoom. We're also used to it now. It doesn't really feel that different.
No.
It's pretty um, common nowadays. So it is something, it is a very easy way to reduce costs by just not having to. And as a business owner, that's cost that I either don't have to bill back to the client because it doesn't take up as much of my time, or I don't have to eat, because I
Right.
can just save time and get more done just by meeting via video. So I think that that's a great suggestion. Another one, this kind of goes along the lines with the equipment and the software programs, but evaluate your employee perks that you offer and look for the ones that aren't used or aren't used heavily. And then think about whether you should just discontinue them. Like if nobody's using them, they probably won't even know that you discontinued it. So there's an easy one, but especially if there's a cost to you to offer that perk and nobody's using it, then, it might be a good decision to discontinue it. Or try to look and see if there are ways you can change it where employees might use it more. So I think I've given this example on a prior season of wine, but one of my clients had offered a gym membership to a specific gym. And they found that there were probably only like 10 or 12 people who were actually using that because, people have their own things that they like to do. And um, while this was like a fitness gym, it didn't offer yoga, it didn't offer, boxing, it didn't offer classes. It just was like a place to go work out. And so we were looking at that and we said, can we change this? Can we just give employees a reimbursement up to a certain amount and they can spend that on whatever gym they want? And if they want the Orange Theory that costs whatever Orange Theory costs, I don't really know, but I'm sure it's more than the yeah, $250 that the company reimbursed them for. But hey, that's still a nice perk. And that doesn't cost the company anything because they don't have to pay the gym for any of those memberships that people aren't using. So in this particular case, it ended up working out really well. And the employees really appreciated that because they could still go to whatever gym they wanted and just turn in the receipts and get up to, whatever the max reimbursement was. So again, just kind of looking at your programs, seeing which one employees are actually using, figuring out if they just need to be discontinued or if maybe you can switch them up and get more people to use them in a different way that also can save the company some money.
And not only save the company money, but in that case, offer health benefits too,
Hmm.
which then in turn saves the company money. So,
Yes. Yes.
and I think the thing I want to point out there is notice that she was saying unused or underutilized programs. Like, don't cut the like everybody loves whatever and just cut it. That'll be a great way to watch people walk out your door and complain on Glassdoor. And so yeah, please be careful when you're looking at those. Um, This one is another one I think is a little more in depth when we talk about like improve your facilities. And I think that a lot of people, when you say that, are going to like shut down. But remember what we're saying when we're doing things where a little bit of investment will give us a huge return. And that really can be the case when we're talking about our facilities. So one of the things that that we saw and that Julie and I always love to talk about anyway is just making things more energy efficient. So if again you're using that outdated equipment that we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, how much extra are you paying in electric every month? Now that sounds kind of silly, like, oh, it probably isn't that much, but are you sure? Because these new energy efficient models really can help save. Um, and then think about what that could be. Again, we're talking about the long term here. This is a long term plan. This isn't a quick one done fix because those never ever work. Think about the type of office you have. Is hybrid work an option, or do you have hybrid work now? I have to give my stats. I've got them sprinkled throughout to get to share with you guys instead of doing it all at once this time. But 63% of high revenue growth companies are actually using that hybrid model. That comes from Accenture.com. And because we always have to talk about the environment, it also can reduce your carbon footprint. So, what are we talking about with a hybrid office? Again, it's your people maybe work in the office, sometimes work out of the office. Maybe it's only 1 day a week. I have a stat I'm going to save for later. Or maybe Julie will do it. We'll see what happens. But there's a stat that I have that talks about like how much you can reduce your carbon footprint with just 1 day a week working from home. So now think about how that translates to your office space with electricity usage and water usage and things like that. So then you go, okay, well, fine, but we have this space. We already have it. We're locked into this lease. Well, how could you use your space differently? Do you have a lot of unused space? Because I think a lot of companies don't realize there's a lot of wasted space out there. Is there a way you could maybe utilize it more efficiently? Maybe cut that space in half and rent out, again, depending on what your lease says, but rent out the other half. I love flexible workspaces. I love when I go into offices and they don't have specific offices for each person. It's just like, oh, I feel like working from here today. I feel like working from this area. And things like that can be, believe it or not, even though you have a softer office space. I don't know where that came from. Smaller office space. It can actually feel bigger, but also at the same time more welcoming, which of course then turns around to employee satisfaction and happiness retention. So just a couple of ideas about facilities. Again, people don't really think about that. They're like, oh, well, we're locked into this. We have to do it this way. This is the way we've always done it. But do you?
Yeah, always a good question. When you were talking about the flexible workspace, the movie The Intern came to my mind. The one with Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro, and
Love that
they
movie.
like all just sort of that's what they do. They just grab desks here and
Hmm.
there, and they That was what I was thinking of. That just popped into my head. I was like, yeah. And again, I love that movie too. So it brought all sorts of good feelings.
Aw, yay.
Okay, so back to business. Another thing that you can look at are your transportation and shipping costs. Again, oftentimes we sort of get into a rut. We've been using these people forever, so we just keep using them. But if you do have to use a lot of transportation companies, or you have a lot of transportation fees, it always pays to, shop around, make sure that you really are getting the best price, or even call them if you've worked with them for a long time. Call them and ask them, hey, is there anything you can do? Is there any way that we can save some money? Are there ways that we can ship things more efficiently? Like, have them bring them into the conversation, make them work for your business. If they just tell you no, there's absolutely nothing we can do, then that's a sign that you probably want to ask some other people to see if that is actually the case or not. Same with shipping costs. If you ship a lot of goods, then you may want to do the same thing. Shop around, see if there isn't an easier or a less expensive option out there. Or again, go to the shipping company that you use the most and ask them, hey, you see what we ship all the time. Are there more efficient ways we could be doing it where we could actually save ourselves some money? You don't have to figure it all out yourself. They're the experts, so use them, ask them.
Rely on somebody else's expertise?
I know. Oh my goodness.
All right. I'm on a theme here, so I'm gonna stick with the whole be green and embrace those sustainable business practices. A couple of
It's very fitting with all the green behind you.
And yes, and the funny thing is, if everybody could see what else was in the office, they would just see nothing but plants because that is who I am. Um, so, okay, well, how does being green save you money? We've got a couple of really great ideas that we have talked about before that have come from these articles. Again, this one was one of my favorites that I saw that I had never actually thought about. So you have a business that generates some sort of unavoidable waste, whatever that waste looks like. Is there an organization maybe that you could partner with that could use that waste as part of their material consumption? I think this is just brilliant. So you make an arrangement with them to resell that waste, and then you're turning it into a profit. So not only then are we reusing materials, which again is of course the whole idea of recycling, but you're also turning a profit. Yay. So now we're actually getting into some ways to turn profit, not just cut the or trim the fat, so to speak. Always want to remind you to encourage your employees to recycle, whether it's paper in the office or plastic or metals. Scrap metals, crazy. We have people, I don't know about where you are, Jules, but like we have people go around every week. They're scrappers and they pick up the metal that anybody sets out, and I guess they can make a pretty decent amount of money on it.
That is true.
Pretty
After
cool, right?
after my father passed, he was a sheet metal worker and the entire garage was full of it. I don't know exactly what he was planning to do with all of that sheet metal, but he had a ton of it. And yes, we got some nice returns for that when we took it to the, you know, scrap places.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. I love it. One I was thinking about because I was just up at my parents this weekend, and at Michigan, we have a 10-cent deposit on cans, bottles, anything fizzy, I guess. If it's fizzy, you can recycle it or you can get a deposit on it. Instead of returning the cans to the store and getting the deposit back, my parents actually donate all of their cans and bottles to the local pet shelter. And so I was thinking, which of course just warms my heart, Why couldn't we do that as a business? I think that would be amazing if we have this place for our, again, I guess you have to live in a state that does this, but if you encourage your employees to leave that, then you donate to the local animal shelter or any other group, and then put it on your social media, put it on your website, and what does that do? I mean, it first of all, of course, I get all excited. It shows your commitment to the environment and also to your city. Like if you're donating to your local animal shelter, if you're donating it to the local women's shelter, think about the good that it does, number one, but also it shows that you're invested in your community, which means that your community is going to then invest in you. So there's a lot of really, really great returns there. I know that I personally, and I know Julie does too, we choose to support businesses that align with our values, especially when it comes to the environment. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing, this I just learned about yesterday, but sometimes you can donate like scrap metal, wood, fabrics, things like that to local community artists who can then use that for projects and things. Um, so the way that I learned about this is I was doing a walking meeting, which was a very cool thing to do, with
that's
somebody that
awesome.
yes, so with somebody that I recently met, who we will definitely have on the podcast because she has a really cool program called All Forward, and a lot of it is about getting people out of their normal environment, having them do like hikes through the Cuyahoga County um, park system, through the metro parks, through all of that, and have deep, meaningful conversations in a different environment that makes it a little bit easier. We've talked about that. If you're going to have a hard conversation, have it side by side versus, at each other, because that can be feel more confrontational. So it was really cool. But it was in Peninsula, Ohio, and she was telling me that she also does some activities where they first go for a walk. They can collect like rocks and leaves that are already on the ground. We're not picking anything, we're being very mindful. But then they also get to this art shop, and she has all these materials that people have donated or that she has found at the local recycling center or like at the dumpster. And they make art out of like to reflect whatever they talked about on their walk or what they saw on their walk or what they felt or whatever, which was just like a really cool thing. So I was thinking
Oh my
about
gosh,
that when
that's
you were saying it.
amazing.
Yeah, like it's just another way to repurpose what you're already doing. So for those companies out there that do make something, you make some sort of good, you always have some sort of excess. So think about what that excess is and if it could be of use to others in the community, as Trisha said. I think that's a really cool way to deal with what otherwise would be considered your trash, right? Your trash is somebody else's treasure.
Just a true statement.
Yes, yes. Well,
I love
Trisha's
that.
leaving the stat to me. So
I
going back, so going back to the hybrid work environment under sustainability now, if you work from home just one day a week, those with a 10-mile daily commute would save around 75 kilograms of carbon dioxide over the year. So I don't really know what any of that means, but I'm assuming it's a lot.
am. Yes, it's
and
a
that
lot.
it's and that it's really good for the environment. So, there's been this big push for everybody to go back into the offices, and we've heard all the stories about the companies that are doing that and how it's pretty much not being well received by anybody, any of the employees, of course. So again, we've given you, two or three different reasons why hybrid work is good for reasons outside of just a good employee benefit. It can also be a good benefit for your business, save you a lot of money on efficiency and operational costs, and it can also be good for the environment. So, definitely something to consider. And if you do already have a hybrid model, if they start talking about taking it away, you can use this information as a compelling argument as to why that should not happen.
I mean, it's crazy when you start to think about that. Like when we're talking about something as, I guess, commonplace as recycling or as and just anything that's environmentally friendly, to think about the fact that it improves communication, like you were saying, engagement, efficiency, reducing costs. Because, like, everybody always thinks of it as an added cost, but it does exactly the opposite. It actually ends up saving money and can generate sales and relationships with new partners. I mean, I just get so excited about all of this.
Yeah, and the other thing we've been talking about is when you have these programs in place and employees actually feel like they're doing something with even a higher purpose than just coming to work every day, that can really increase retention. So again, bringing it
Oh,
back to the retention, retention,
there's that word
retention.
again.
All good things. Yes.
Yes. Now, one of Julie and I's favorite topics, as you probably know if you've been listening. If you haven't and you're new, welcome. Go back and check out some prior episodes. Training and skill development is one of our favorite things. And I really want, especially managers and HR professionals, to hear me on this. Yes, by spending money on training and skill development, you are actually going to save money. Now, I think we talk about this, I think, hint, hint, every single episode, but truly investing in your employees, enhancing their different skills actually is going to save you money down the road. It boosts productivity. Why? What? Yeah, because what have we said before? It minimizes errors. If there aren't errors, then people don't have to do the work again. So you're saving time and ultimately then saving money. Not to mention that people just feel good. We have said, I think, what do we, over 80%, I think it's even over 85% of people say that they will stay at a position where they make less money if they are receiving continuous education and opportunities to learn. So then, let's see. That means that, oh yeah, we're back to engagement again, right? We're talking about retention. We're talking about creating a workforce that, as they learn more, are more adaptable. And so when you are facing these downturns, they have the skills and they have the desire to help you as a company succeed. So let's talk about some other things like individual productivity. When we reduce an individual's productivity, then we can also reduce the cost of hiring more people. So, see how all of this fits together. Think about how you could improve someone's performance if you take the perspective of an employee and think about what is it that they would need to do their job, spend a little bit there, then you don't have to hire another person. And not even just that. Think about, like, how can we make the jobs more fun? Because when jobs are more fun and people are again engaged, then the work is going to get done faster. It's going to get done with fewer errors. And again, people aren't going to leave you. So there we go back to that retention again. You don't have to do this alone. Your employees actually are a really, really great resource. So ask them, reach out, talk to them, get some feedback. There's that communication again, Jules.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because you teed that up so nicely because my very first thing was going to be with our next topic, which is increasing efficiency, looking for ways to increase efficiency. My first thing was going to be ask your employees because they probably
Ah,
know how to make their jobs easier. Like they know the
you mean
pain
because they do
points.
it every day?
Exactly. Right on the nose. Yes, they do it every day. They have frustrations over the things that slow them down or take way longer than they're supposed to, or have to go through 25 different people. So they're the ones that have the knowledge. And as Trisha was just saying, make it enjoyable, make it a fun thing, make it a contest to see who can come, create the greatest efficiency. Which department can save the most money over the next quarter,
I love that.
by increasing efficiency. And they have to be able to show their work, but you could do something fun like that, and then they get something at the end. But they definitely know where the bumps in the roads are, or where things get clogged up or slowed down. So again, you don't have to figure it out. And one of the things that employees hate the most is when the company seems to be making decisions without getting their input at all. Because again, they know. And if they're going to be the ones affected by it, then they don't want to hear about it and never have been involved in the process. So, first and foremost, involve them in the process. They will help you figure out ways to increase efficiency, because if there are easier ways to do their job, then yes, they're going to want to do that, right? And then they may even be able to be more innovative because they actually have more time to think about being creative or coming up with new ideas versus getting bogged down in the tasks that they're getting bogged down in every single day. So that's one thing. Also think about, what are your approval processes for many things? Does it have to go through seven different people? Does it really have to go through seven different people? Can we shorten that? Can we give the managers a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more authority? Can we, you put the parameters in. Again, going back to one of our episodes from this season, don't write your policies for the 10% who abuse them, write them for the 90% who don't. And most of your managers are going to do a good job if you give them the authority to approve things. They want the company to succeed just as much as anybody else. So they're going to try to make the best choices they can. And most of the time, they're going to be good choices. So don't, like, if that 10%, you got one person who goes rogue, you're going to figure it out pretty fast. You can deal with that one person. But if you can shorten, if you can take the approval process from seven people down to two, things are going to get done a lot faster. You're going to increase efficiency. So those are all things to think about. Another one, as Trisha was talking about space earlier, think about your departments that have to interact the most frequently with each other. Can you move them closer together? Especially if they actually have to drive to see each other, or they, have to walk, even if it's just walking across your campus, for lack of a better term, but, your campus or your work site. If they have to, you've seen some of these Ford plants, right? Like,
They're huge.
they're huge. You do have to drive from one end to the other,
Yeah.
So if you've got two departments that work together all the time, but they're at opposite ends of the plant, maybe try to figure out if there's a way you can better utilize your space to have them closer together so that they're right there and decisions can be made much more quickly and much more efficiently. So, couple ideas there, couple ideas of how to increase efficiency. But again, the easiest way is to start by asking your employees.
You know, we just keep like setting up each other up. I mean, it's amazing.
It's like we've known each other forever.
I mean, right? All right, so I actually wanted to go into increasing communication between departments because you were talking about that. You were talking about like get them next to each other. Let's talk about some just general communication things. You have these different departments. Maybe they work together, but do they use some of the same resources? So, if they do use some of the same resources, or maybe it's not necessarily those two, but there's three or four other departments that use them, then we all know buying in bulk saves money. That's why we belong to things like Costco and Sam's Club and BJ's that's the one that's out there in Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
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 So Like buying in bulk saves money. If you buy in bulk as a company, then you can shift materials between those departments that might need them as needed. And then if you think about it, if they're not communicating and someone bought a bunch for a particular project and now they don't need that material anymore, well, then it's just sitting there where, and maybe it's expiring. Or maybe it's just sitting there, oh, taking up space, like we talked about earlier. So these communications can help with that. And then going back to what Julie was saying earlier, if we think about the processes, if you have multiple different departments that are using maybe not the same process, but a similar process, is there a way that they can talk about that to hey, we did this and it really helped us reduce these inefficiencies? Or, hey, maybe if we do this together, we could reduce more inefficiencies. So, again, it's communication. We should never, ever, ever be working in siloed environments. That is one of my biggest things. You guys know that I always talk about that. It's not efficient. We are much more efficient when we work in a collaborative way. One of the articles that I was reading as Julie and I were preparing for this episode, they use the word synergy. And I've always loved that word anyway, but I was like, let me Google it to see what the AI people say about synergy. And it was as if they had read my mind. They said, when two or more things work together, I have to read this, to create a result that is greater than the sum of their individual parts. I mean, like that's a really cool thing when you think about it. Two or more things work together to drive a result that is greater than either one of them could have done individually. It gets me so excited. Like if you think about that, that is why we're always preaching to y'all about communication. Um, then on the other hand, because we have to go there, opposites. Poor communication, what are we talking about? Duplication of efforts. That product sitting in some wasted area that you never ever utilize that you're paying for. So that's that wasted resources, which of course is lost time and lost money. So passionate.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. No, I thought that was great. And I was actually thinking, like, going back to what we were talking about with increasing efficiency, companies could add a synergy committee where they share all their ideas and the things that they have been doing that they have found to be helpful. Because you know that the answer to everything nowadays is, well, there's an app for that, but maybe your department just hasn't figured out what app it is yet, right? Like,
Right. A
I mean,
synergy committee. I want to be on it.
there really is an app for everything, though. I swear to God.
Truth.
But we're almost getting to the point where there's too many apps right now, and you
Hmm.
can't keep them all straight. So again, but I love that. I think that that's great. Yes, communication is always key, but sharing of ideas, and I think that oftentimes nowadays we don't have as much time or allowance to do those sorts of things. That is the one thing I will say that I think has gotten lost with people not being in an office together, because you don't have the opportunity to have as many of those sort of off the cuff conversations where a lot of this stuff happens. Like somebody's
Hmm.
just frustrated, they walk out of their office, they walk into their friend's office and they're like, oh my god, I'm just having a moment, I'm so frustrated by this, blah 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 blah. And then the person they're talking to goes, there's an app for that, let me show you, and then the problem is solved. So
Or they get on Slack and complain about
right.
it and very negatively complain about it and don't realize that their employer has all sorts of access to that. Insert Jules and Trish.
Right, right, right. Yeah. So again, hybrid work is great for all the reasons we've talked about. Zoom is great for all the reasons we've talked about. I'm not suggesting that everybody has to be back in the office. But I think we need to be more intentional about creating opportunities for people to have conversations about these types of things. So you're not going to find efficiencies if you're not looking for them. You're not going to find synergy if you're not looking for it. You're not going to find cost savings if you're not looking for them, or if you're not even keeping track of how much you're spending anyway. So we need to create those opportunities for people to have those conversations, to look for those opportunities, and then to have a company that has a process where those are received warmly, and actually looked at,
Yeah,
and
that would be helpful.
perhaps implemented.
What? Implemented?
Yeah. I mean, what a great
Oh my gosh.
retention tool, right? Like
Right.
somebody, I think I've mentioned this. One of my clients has, they call it an IQ program. And if somebody submits an idea that does get implemented, they get like $500.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
That
pretty
would,
cool.
and I mean, immediately people go, oh, we can't spend that, but you don't have to do $500.
Right.
And when you think about the return on that idea, I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I
you get
love
that
it.
$500 back pretty quickly if it
Yeah,
really
for
is
sure.
something that these are all designed to increase efficiency. Like that's
Yeah.
what the purpose of that program is. So, things like that can be really helpful. I talked about this a little bit already, but just to hammer the point home again, if you have contracts, try to renegotiate them. If you need to save costs, sometimes everybody's in the same boat. And if you have been a customer for a long time, then hopefully those people will work with you to keep you as a customer or to help you find ways within their own systems and programs that can save you money. It's sort of like, how irritated have we all been when we have signed up for cable or a streaming service or some other thing where we got, some great deal because we were a new customer, but then after you've been there for 3 years, you're paying sky high prices and none of the deals
Ridiculous.
are available to you. Like that kind of stuff is so irritating. So, companies, you have even more leverage than an individual has. So, use it. Call up those companies, especially the ones where you're spending the most money every month or every year, and say, hey, we need to figure something out, or we're going to have to shop for another solution. What can you do for us? So there's no harm in asking. And a lot of times you will get a better contract. And it may not be the money that's the thing. Maybe the cost stays the same, but you get more for what you're paying, or you get rid of some redundancies or other things that make you again more efficient, things like that. So there's a bunch of different ways to renegotiate contracts. It doesn't always have to be a reduction in price. Sometimes it's just that you're getting things that serve you better for the same price, which again in the end does save you money.
That might be my favorite mic drop moment for you. Because I think that that's really important. I think that people, when they think about renegotiating, they always think, oh, I have to do it in a way that reduces costs. And maybe you don't, but it's the benefits outweigh then, right? You get these new benefits, or like you said, the new efficiencies that end up saving you money ultimately. I think that's really impressive. I don't know
Yeah,
that
and
I would have thought about that actually.
well, and then the other thing is like when you're looking at your contracts on that same note, when you're looking at your contracts and the services that one of those providers provide to you, think about where your pain points are because that may be what you fix. Again, instead of going to them and saying, we got to cut costs somehow, what can you do for us? Maybe it's like, you know what? We love these five things about what you do for us, but this one thing is really problematic for us for X, Y, and Z. Can you do anything to fix that? Because if you can, then we're going to stick with you. If not, we might have to start shopping for solutions, and then that might make them start to think about, oh, how could we solve that problem for our customer? And then if they can solve that pain point, it might be worth paying the same amount that you were paying because now, again, things are more efficient. So it's just a kind of a different way of looking at things because everybody hates talking about money. So, it's still an important thing. If you absolutely have to cut costs, you have to cut costs, but maybe as part of that conversation, you can also address some of the pain points that you're having with that client and see if you can come up with any better solutions.
I love it. My next one is going to be about marketing. I love marketing. Um, Actually, I don't. I
Yeah,
love it because
I was like,
I don't.
cheers to you because I
Yeah, no.
can't stand it.
I'm sorry. What I should say is I love watching other people market. Like Will, my husband is so good at social media marketing. Like he's just really, really good at it. There are people out there, there's this younger generation that they're so good at social media advertising. They're really good at creating this like these branding opportunities for companies and they like it and they already work for you. And it turns out as we looked at their job, it's not really a very efficient design and they have all this free time. Maybe that's the person that you start to use as an alternative marketing source. Think about it. Television is expensive, billboards expensive. I don't know that many people actually, I mean, there are people that still love to read a physical newspaper, but not a lot of people do. So think about social media advertising. Especially if your product or you're trying to reach out to that like younger demographic or mid-range demographic. So if you're paying for these promotions that they're never even going to pay attention to, it's wasted money. Like I know people still listen to, of course, radio. For me, I would say radio is number one. I am never in the house. I don't ever have my TV on, but I always have a radio or some sort of streaming service for music on. So maybe think about something like that and try to use some of these newer tools and utilize the people that already work for you that are excited about it. Again, Julie and I always talk about like talk to your employees, see who's excited about it, see who thinks that they have some free time. Could they do this for you? And I feel like you're going to see a huge return on it.
Younger generations, I always hate, making that sort of generalization, but they are definitely better at social media. And we win. I know a picture was posted recently on our Wine with HR page, but I took my sisters and my nieces. We all went and got pedicures, and I had the Wine with HR glasses just because I wanted actual glasses for us. We were celebrating my sister's birthday. Shout out to my sister Cheryl. It was a while ago now, but it's okay. But I didn't even think about that. I've got all these glasses with the Wine with HR, and we're having champagne and we're getting pedicures. And then my niece is like, let's get a picture. We'll put it on social media. And I was like, yes.
See, that's what I'm talking about. They're always thinking.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that so
Yes.
much.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, anyway, so off of social media, but the next thing is look at your managerial position. So, are your managers and teams actually working together efficiently? If they're not, are there ways that that can be improved? Again, we're not saying your first move should be to look for who to eliminate. We're trying to avoid that at all costs if we can. Costs. Dun, dun.
Haha.
Um, but you could start tying their performance to a profit generating project or, start tying some of what they do or a bonus that they get to how efficient they actually are. One of those could be, Trisha and I have talked about this a lot, but maybe you start actually, I don't know, holding them accountable for managing their people. As I've said a million times, it's one of my
Come
biggest
on
pet
now.
peeves. I know.
Come on
It's one
now.
it's one of my biggest pet peeves. I have rarely seen an evaluation where a manager is actually evaluated on how they manage their people. So, this might be an opportunity where you want to look at that because if they are managing their teams really well, guess what? All of the other things that Trisha and I have been talking about fall into place. So that can make you more efficient. That can help you save money because if they are doing what they are supposed to be doing, then the employees that they have within their team are engaged. They are working when they're actually there. They are motivated. They're being developed in ways that will help the company as the company grows and continues. So that we always say, managers, you guys are the linchpin. Like you guys are the front line. You're so important. I don't think you always realize how important you are. And if you are good at what you do, you're priceless. Let me say that again. Managers, are you listening? If you are good at what you do, you are priceless. There's no better job security than being a good manager who is not afraid to handle employee issues because those are the things that take up time, that waste resources, and that end up in lawsuits. So if you can avoid those types of things and you are a good manager who knows how to motivate your team, then you are just by doing what you're doing going to save the company money.
We so often say like managers are promoted because they're good at their jobs, not because they're good at managing people. And I think that it's about time that we did say exactly what you just said, which is a good manager is priceless. So, cheers. Cheers to our
Cheers.
managers out there because Julie's right.
Yep. Yep. Well, and HR knows it. HR loves a good manager. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. They're
I
my
can tell
favorite.
you, yes, I can tell you, when we have an issue with a particular client and we're like, who is the manager? And if the name is somebody that we know and trust, we're like, oh, thank God, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. But if it's somebody else who doesn't handle problems very well or who, tries to bury it or just close their eyes and hope it goes away, then we're like, oh boy, we're in for a
So
doozy.
bad.
You know?
So bad.
Yeah. Yep. So, Trish, what's your next suggestion?
My next one goes back to one of our, and I was just trying to look it up actually to figure out what episode it was last year, but it was the one with Sarah Epping,
Yeah. Yep.
where we were talking about freelance work and contractors and things like that. And I can't remember, but I know it was one of our episodes. Hi, Sarah, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah. Call me.
Um, yeah, yeah, right? Okay, so sorry. Distraction, everybody, sorry. Um, One of the things we talked about was how we could use contractors or freelancers to outsource some of, not all right, we're not trying to get rid of jobs within our company, but like just some of those temporary needs or something that, well, we only maybe we lost somebody and we start to realize like, wow, we don't need a full-time position for this. We could actually use a part-time position, so a freelancer or contractor would be perfect. So think about those because if you are open to those kind of positions, then you don't have to. Now, again, we want you to pay benefits to all of your employees. We want you to support your employees in every way possible. But if there are these little one-offs or these little areas where you really don't need a full-time position, can you hire someone like that? Can you outsource? Now, I'm not a big person to say, oh, offshore or outsource to some company outside of the US. I'm not
Uh,
recommending
yeah.
that, right? That's not what we're talking about here. We're not trying to send jobs away. We're talking about like your local companies, your local markets, again, where we are investing in our communities, and then our communities are then in return investing in us. And while people say, oh, well, but if I went overseas, it would save me money and it would save that, like, think about the return that investing in your local companies and your local people will return. And I think that you will see that it actually comes back at a greater rate. And I love, I mean, I work with several of my clients have started to reach out and said, oh, well, this person retired. And we know we could say, okay, this task that they were doing went to this person, this went to this person, but we still have this one thing. And it takes maybe 15 to 20 hours a week, but it's critical. Hey, let's outsource. Let's have this contractor. And it's just been amazing. So,
Yeah, and I think marketing is one of the great things to outsource because a lot of companies do not have somebody in-house who knows what they're doing. And it can be very time consuming for somebody who is not up to speed with all of the different platforms and all of the like best practices and things like that. It's just like having an HR consultant for a smaller company who doesn't have a super robust HR team. Like that's another way. There are a lot of fractional um, roles that you can outsource that can be very beneficial for a company until you get back to where you can hire somebody for full time,
right.
but it can be a nice bridge for those hard economic times. By the way, it was episode 6 in season 2 where we had Sarah on.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that just, go back to season 2, check out episode 6. It was a really great episode. Sarah's a
Was
ton
that
of
was
fun.
so fun.
Yeah, so fun, so fun. So, okay, so the last one that we have is before you make any changes relating to personnel. So, whether you release somebody, do a riff, you hire more people, whatever the case may be, really step back and assess all the costs that come along with what you're about to do. So, if you get rid of somebody, do you have to replace them? What is the cost of that training time? We always say that there's a cost to bring any new person on board. And depending how long they stay, there's turnover costs. All of that, letting go of an employee, getting a new employee, all of that has a cost related to it. So you want to be really, again, intentional about what your plan is. So you can't just say, okay, well, we're going to get rid of this person, but we have no plan how to replace their duties. And let me tell you, just assigning their duties to other people and increasing their workload without increasing their comp, not going to work. You're going to end up with more people walking out the door. Happens all the time. So, those of you who are like, that would never, oh, it happens all the time. It's probably happened to many of you that are listening right now. Like, hey, we
Yeah.
don't have anybody to do this. Could you do this just
You don't mind
temporarily?
just for a little
Right?
while.
Yeah, just for a little while. And then the next thing you know, 7 years have gone by and you're doing 7 people's jobs for the same rate you got hired to do the first one. So employees who are listening out there, don't let that happen to you. Speak up. But companies, be very intentional about what your plan is. And if you really think you need to hire somebody, again, go through that, sort of thought process that Trisha just outlined. Do we really need to replace this with a full-time person who we also have to pay benefits to? Or is it a role that at least temporarily we could outsource so that we can save some money until the economy is more certain, until we're in a better place, whatever the case may be. And then you can hire somebody full-time. But that might also give you an idea of what that job role should look like moving forward if you are able to for a while have somebody else taking it off of your plate and handling it, or you may find that it's a perfect role to be outsourced and you don't need to bring it in house, which is also fine. As we talked about in that episode with Sarah, you can have all layers of people working for you. You can have, your employees who are there for 40 hours that you pay your comp and benefits to. You can have freelancers, you can have contractors, you can have part timers, you can have as needed people. There's a whole world full of, combinations that you can have that could work. So that's another thing to look at. Like, do we always have to hire a full time person? Or could it be a part time position? Could it be an as needed position? Could it be a senior? And by senior, I don't mean senior in high school, I mean senior citizen who, maybe is retired but bored and they want something to do. Going back to the intern, it's coming full circle. Maybe you
Right.
need
I
to,
love
you
it.
know, maybe you need to hire Robert De Niro.
I will. Yes, please.
But you can get creative with all of this, I guess is my point. But
Yeah.
going back to where we started, it needs to be strategic. You do not want to be in a position where you are making decisions out of fear of what is going to happen. You want to be looking at the situation, figure out the worst case scenario, and think strategically about how you can best avoid that by taking small steps now.
I love that so much. I mean, I think that really is the big takeaway on this is if you start thinking, yes, okay, we're in this crazy uncertain time, but this isn't something to just knee-jerk reaction and then be done with it. Really, truly be strategic. Think about, okay, what can we do now? What can we do in the future? What's our long term look like? And making those small changes, like I mentioned earlier, across the board, like, okay, those 5 to 10% from each department really does, again, this is where we started. We're going to bring it full circle. It really does add up to huge savings. Start with the inefficiencies that Julie and I discussed earlier. Really look at those and see where you can cut some costs and try to save some money. Um, One of the other things that I saw in one of the articles that I loved, um, don't just cut things because you're like, oh, well, this costs too much money. Is there a way that you could combine events? Like you have two events, they're super valuable, but they're also pretty expensive. Can you combine them in a way where it's beneficial to do both? One of the ones that was mentioned would be like, okay, you have this mandatory training, you have to do it every single year. Why not combine it with something else that could be fun, like a holiday party or some sort of a, oh, we've been in business for 50 years or 100 years or whatever. Like combine those two things. Okay, in the morning, we're going to do some training, but your reward is getting to do this party afterwards. Before I hit my very last thing, I have to go back to something that Julie said. With when it comes to these discussions and the fact that we really aren't always in person anymore, Julie and I have talked about meetings and giving time for people to have discussions. If you want to have like some valuable discussions, it's not just, okay, does anybody have anything that they would like to talk about today? That's great. And I'm happy that you're thinking that way, but most people aren't going to have something. Like come up with a couple of topics or just a single topic so that when you're having those meetings, hey, we're talking about efficiencies. Does anybody have a way that we could reduce X? Okay, and then the next time, hey, we did a great job with that. Let's talk about now reducing Y. Like really think about some topics and then ask them the questions.
When you were talking, one thing that popped into my head is that um, one of the other things, like when we're talking about efficiencies, we want to look for interdepartmental inefficiencies. So a lot of times you have two departments that work together closely, but they don't always talk to each other. And they're probably both frustrated with each other over certain things. So, like getting them together and saying, what are the pain points? And how do we work together to make them more efficient? But to
Love it.
Trisha's point, you've got to have those questions that get people thinking about it. So maybe the first question in a synergy committee or an efficiency committee is, what are your pain points? What are your biggest pain points? And then get those all out on the table and then say, okay, next meeting, I want everybody to come with one or two ideas. It doesn't even have to be for your department. If you have an idea for another department, great. Yes, we want you to have departments for your own, but get people from around the company because to Trisha's point from earlier, there may be a department that's like, oh, we've already solved this problem.
Wouldn't that be nice to not have to solve it on your own and just be able to go, boop, I'm going to steal that. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes, yes. So again, but you've got to foster those opportunities for all of those departments to talk to each other. So, and don't always include the same people. This is another thing I see people do all the time. They create committees and it's always the same five or six people on each committee because they know those people will say yes. Get the people who aren't normally on a committee. Because number one, picking the same people all the time fosters a sense of exclusion, which we don't want. We want inclusion. But also going to the people who do the job all the time or going to the people who are not in leadership positions or more on an individual contributor level, but going to them and saying, you know what, we value your opinion, so we want you on this committee. And do that for every committee. Try to pick different people than the people who are always on them, because that's how you get new ideas, because otherwise it's the same people talking about the same things over and over and over. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Trisha, any final thoughts before we go back to our WINE?
No, I think believe it or not, I think I got all my thoughts out.
All right, well, how was your wine?
Oh, it's delicious as always. I was just realizing I'm a little light. I might have to fill up again here. What about
Yes,
you?
my wine is still lovely. I do have the bottle sitting over there, so I'm in a better position than you are.
Yeah, mine's not in
Efficiencies,
the room.
efficiencies, bring the bottle.
I know, I know. Well, see, what I need though is like you have, I need a wine fridge in my office. And then once I get that, then I will, yeah.
Yeah. It's a business expense.
I mean, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us. As always, we hope that you got some valuable suggestions and recommendations out of this episode. We, of course, are always open for suggestions as to topics. And one of the topics we want to do is your craziest HR stories. So please send those to us at WHINE at monarchendeavorsllc.com. It will be in the show notes because I know that's a long email address. But send us recommendations for wine, send us topic recommendations, or just email us and say hi. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to follow us on Patreon. You can even become a paid member. You get access to some special goodies as well as some special merch. And subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Cheers.
Cheers.